Hi, my name is Joana and this is Input Studio. Welcome to the video. Today I want to talk about gain staging. Gain staging, in my opinion, is one of the most important steps if you want to have a good quality sounding mix. This is often overlooked though, especially by those who are just starting to produce or starting to mix their first songs. Not everyone understands the concept of gain staging, and today I want to clarify and to make it simple for everyone so that you can start producing and mixing your tracks properly without making some of the most common mistakes. So without further ado, let's get to the video. Okay, so I've got a session here on Reaper now. I absolutely love Studio One, but I've been trying Reaper lately and I've tried pretty much a lot of the skins there are, and I'm just using this Pro Tools skin at the moment. I know it's a bit kind of like the people who like Pro Tools and don't have money to pay for the Pro Tools, but without that, I just kind of like the interface and I decided to use it that way. But I've been enjoying Reaper quite a lot, so I wanted to do a video today on Reaper and show you how it works here. So first of all, if we talk about gain staging, if we can define it, it's basically ensuring that all your tracks are within a good level to both not be digitally clipping or causing any distortion, but at the same time in a good enough level that it will be still hitting the processes that you apply to those tracks. For an example, we don't want a kick that is punching too hard and it has a lot of gain, that you can see the red mark on your fader. That just means the kick is clipping. So we don't want to kick as high as that, but we also don't want to kick at a minus 30 dBFS, for example, which is a little bit before the middle of your fader in your DAW. Because if you apply like a compressor, if an effect to the kick or something, you're going to have to be driving the input of the effect every single time you put an effect into a channel like that. So if we gain stage every track into a manageable, good level, we're going to ensure that whatever process we add to that track is going to automatically be hitting the process, but at the same time it won't be clipping and it won't be too loud for that. There is consensus on a level of an average of minus 18 dBFS and a peak level of minus 12 dBFS. And that's usually what I go for. And this depends on a lot of things. It depends on personal preference. It depends on the genre that you're mixing. I mostly mix pop, R&B, pop rock, not very hard music. So for that reason, these levels work fine for me. And this is the consensus amongst a lot of people that really understand way more than I do, certainly, about this. And so I don't want to complicate a lot. I think this is a basic notion of what gain staging is. An important disclaimer, though, is that if you're going to gain stage when you're starting a mix, I want to encourage you, and especially those who are just starting to mix or starting to produce and mix, and I know that most of you guys do both things, because I used to do, and I still do, both things, production and mix. My advice is for you to separate the both sections very well, like clearly mark, okay, this is the end of the production, and clearly mark the beginning of the mixing stage. Because if you don't do so, I can assure you you're not going to be gain staging your tracks properly. And you can relate to this because most of the times, if you're using, for example, kick samples on a virtual instrument or a piano sample, often those are too loud and they are not realistic with the levels that usually you record if you're recording the actual instrument. And so it may sound well when you're producing it, and then you start applying your effects, you start bringing in the vocals and all that, but oftentimes you're going to be clipping from the source. And that is a bad idea because it's just going to ruin your mix further down the line. You're going to be mixing stages when you shouldn't be. And if you are clipping from the source, you are going to leave very low headroom, and I'm sure you've heard of this word. Headroom is a few decibels for the mastering engineer or the mixing engineer to work with. And so if you're leaving them just a little bit of headroom, they're basically not going to be able to bring your track to a competitive level to be playing on Spotify or in other platforms, because everything they do to the track is just going to squash the dynamics of the track, is just going to not sound pleasant. So it's very, very important. Separate the production stage from the mixing stage to ensure that you're going to have a quality production. You export all your tracks, you export all your effects. You can export the tracks dry and wet, and then the mixing engineer can decide which one to use or have an idea of what your thought process was. And then when you send them to the mixing engineer, or if you think about mixing the track that you've produced, start a new session, bring in your mixing template, which is something that also helps, and then drag each track, organize them, color them, make everything ready for you to start mixing, okay? When you do start mixing, after you've colored all your tracks, after you've organized all your session, you're going to be gain staging. And this is where we come in today with this video. So here on Reaper, I have got some tracks from Produce Like a Pro. Produce Like a Pro is an absolute genius YouTube channel. Like, if you only watch his videos, you're going to learn a big deal about mixing. I strongly encourage you to go check him out because he helps me a lot. I still watch everything he posts pretty much. So these are some free multi-tracks that he published on his channel. Is a cover from Queen with Another One Bites the Dust. And I have just done what I have told you, dragged everything in, checked what was what, named all the tracks, and organized on my mixing template. And so once I have done that, I have brought, this is the mixer, I have brought all the channels down, but the bus channels, okay, because I need to be bringing one by one and hearing sound, so I need to leave the bus channels or the group channels up, and the master fader visible as well. So how I do this, and you can do this many different ways, but how I do this is I check the meter on the individual, either the channel or the bus, because I'm going to be soloing or bringing one track up at the time. And so I'm going to be looking for an average of -18 and a peak of -12. And I'm going to do that for every single one of these tracks to balance, to gain stage, okay? So let's see how that works. So I'm bringing the kick. I'm bringing the kick up. I'm just going to select, yeah, it's on loop. So let's hear how that sounds. Okay, you can see the kick is averaging it around here, but it's hitting -6 as like the peak level. And that is obviously too loud. So what I can do on Reaper, they have got this little kind of, it's a gain knob basically, and I like to adjust it here. In other DAWs, they may or may not have this. I also use Studio One. Studio One also has this feature on the mixer, or you can just add the mix tool VST from their own stock plugins, and you can adjust it there. So as I hear the kick, I'm going to see the gain level here, and remember, peaking at around here, -12, and averaging at around -18. Okay, let's hear it. Okay, so I left it at around here, which might be something like -14, -16, because the kick, as you can see, is like very consistent, very punchy. Like there's not many dynamics to the kick. It's like with that level for throughout the whole track. So I'm happy with how it is there. So then I can just bring this one completely down again and bring the next kick in. I just double click and it brings the fader to unity, to level 0. And I'm going to listen to the next one and adjust, and so on and so forth. Okay, next one. Good. Let's bring it like that. And so this is literally what I do for every single track. Yes, you have to do this for every single track if you're going to gain stage your tracks properly. And then oftentimes, let's say, actually here I've got a lot of tracks that will constitute the drum group, the drum bus. So often what happens is, yeah, they're all gain staged properly, but the sum of them is actually going to be hitting a very high level. It's going to be hitting the yellow or the red zone because it's the sum of all of the tracks. And so what I can do and what I often do is on my first insert, I may bring the input down a little bit, and then the output, I will play with it to have the track come out on an optimum level, again on a peak of -12 and an average of -18, or I can just bring the volume down. As long as it's not peaking on the bus from the root source, okay, I just tend to bring it down on the volume a little bit, or do that little trick with the output on the first compressor I insert on the bus. And the same thing for my final buses, which are these, and then on my 2 bus or the mix bus, I do the exact same thing. I just adjust the gain in the bus source as I need to, okay? I hope this has been helpful for you. I think this is very, very important, and I hope that I have showed you how simple this is. And if you do this, I promise you, if you do this every time you start mixing a new song, you're going to be preventing so many issues down the line. Yes, you could be adjusting the level further down the line. If you do this from the beginning, there's no risk that you're going to be hitting it at compressor so hard that you're just going to be squashing the dynamics of a track or those kind of effects. And this is what this aims to prevent. So I hope this has been honestly helpful to all of you guys. And leave in the comments below if you want me to speak about any of this further. I'm happy to develop a little bit. Or if you have any questions, just write them down and I'm happy to answer. Also leave me some suggestions for further videos if you want to hear any specific topics on the channel, okay? Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.